So while converting internships into full-time job, it is good to know which company you're working with. If you're working with companies like Amazon or Google, Facebook, which are big companies, they generally take interns because they want them to convert to full-times. Their entire purpose of taking interns is for that. However, there are you might not necessarily end up with these big companies. If you're going with some small companies, the thing is that they might take interns for only completing the 2.5 month project, and they might also not have the funds sufficient to manage your H1B and other visa things. So if you're working with small companies, then the chances of getting your internship converted to full time are less. So on an average, I would think that about 25% people convert their internship to full time. So first will be the one which I'm doing, which is an innovation and design engineer. So my job profile is something wherein I design my warehouses, Amazon's warehouses. I design their fulfillment centers. Fulfillment centers are the centers wherein they store bulk of their inventory, and there are different layers of those centers. So my job is to design all those centers, look at the layout, do the process engineering, and understand how things flow within the warehouse and how to do that in the most optimal way possible. That will be one kind of a job. The other kind will be business analyst roles, wherein you'll be working with a huge amount of data. You'll be having to clean a lot of data. You'll be working with teams to make sure you are getting the most helpful insights from the data. So that will be another kind of a job profile available. Then the other kind of a job profile will be transportation specialist. So you'll be working and designing the transportation network for a company. A transportation network is basically, if you have a center, from where do you want your stuff to come in, where do you want to logistically position your center so that you are incurring the least transportation cost possible. How do you basically visualize your center, and how do you basically keep it at a point where it is also close to the ports, because you get most of your stuff from your ports, but also very close to the cities, because then you want to ship it to the city. So basically forming algorithms, optimization algorithms, and solving them to make sure you're logistically positioning your centers at a point which will be the most efficient for your company. So that will be the third type. A fourth kind of a role will be inventory manager role. So basically, again, you will solve inventory models, assess inventory models and other kind of inventory models, and then figure out what is the optimal stock which you should keep in your warehouses and your centers, which will give you basically the shortest center possible and the most minimal reduction or wastage in inventory. You can't keep a lot of inventory because something might be perishable, so they might be wasted. Or also keeping a lot of inventory means that you are blocking a lot of capital. Keeping a lot of inventory also means that you are basically expanding your center, so you have to make sure that you are planning your inventory out very well. So that will be one kind of a role which will be available for you. Another kind will be regression analysis, machine learning kind of a role, wherein you are predicting future or you are predicting newer outcomes based upon the data which is available to you. So these might be different kind of roles. If you are in Atlanta, it's something around $70,000 to $80,000. If you are working in Seattle, California, it will be $90,000 to $100,000. So average salaries depend upon your job location and how big your company is. So if you are working in Atlanta, because Atlanta, the cost of living is cheap, and you can find good houses for about $700 to $800 rent, assuming you're not sharing your room. And food also over there is not very costly. Transportation is not very costly. So over there, $70,000 to $80,000 will be something you could expect. In costlier places like Boston, California, Seattle, the average salary which you will be looking at is around $90,000 to $100,000. And the salaries which I'm quoting right now is with respect is assuming that you are not having any work experience. So if you have about 3 years of work experience or no year of work experience, you will be basically starting at the same level. You will be getting a salary which is about $90,000 to $100,000 in California, Seattle, Boston, New York type of places. It depends on how your internship was. So if it's relevant to the job profile you are looking at, it definitely helps. If it's not relevant, then it doesn't help. Definitely, I think it's a bit difficult to get jobs if you're not doing it from top 20 colleges. However, if you're doing it from top 20 colleges, getting internships or jobs is not a very difficult thing, because even now people want to recruit international students. Indian and Chinese are basically the students who are working the hardest in the US right now. People want these people to come in their companies, and even while I was working at Amazon, my team consisted a lot of Indian and Chinese people and not American people. So mostly big companies and even small companies want Indian and Chinese people over there. A lot of fuss is being made upon H1B visa, but it's not huge. It's not a huge problem. The entire thing which Trump says is that people coming from abroad coming to work over here should not get jobs, and people who are in America should be preferred. So if you are students in America and if you have spent so much money being in America, he also wants us to get jobs. So I think his policies are not completely against us, and it's not going to be very difficult if you're doing it from a top college.